I just got to Sydney. I'm here for a very exciting reason. We're going to go visit the new wave pool.
It's finally time. I've been given a special pre-opening invite to Urbnsurf Sydney, Australia's newest wave pool project that opens next month.
And then the next one comes. So different to anything that I've had before.
This video is brought to you by you guys. The reason I'm able to do what I do is because I have an incredible body of students who regularly come along to my wave pool retreats and international surf experiences, and sign up to my online courses at thesurfersroadmap.com. If you want to join them and seriously progress your surfing from any level, check out the links in the description below to grab one of the limited spots to a retreat or to join in online. Back to the show.
I'm someone who's utilised wave pools, I feel, to their utmost potential, not just as a guest or as a surfer, but also as a coach. And when I heard that they were opening one in Sydney, I was just beyond excited. Big question though, is it good? Is it different to Melbourne? Is it going to be worth going to? And that's what I'm here to answer today. Oh my God, there it is! I'm filming a review with the guys, and I just got told to park below. Do you know how to?
Yes, righto. You head back out here.
Yep. Okay, sweet, legend. Thank you.
The new tub is smack bang in the middle of Olympic Park in Sydney's inner west, about 30 minutes from the airport, 40 minutes from Bondi, and an hour from the northern beaches. Walking into this new site, you're immediately struck with how aesthetically pleasing it is. Trees abound, the sun is shining, and I'm reminded how lucky we are to be surfers in this day and age. Wave pools have changed the game in surfing, taking what is normally a wild and unpredictable, yet still beautiful experience and standardising it into a predictable and controllable pool menu is a huge benefit to surfers, not in trying to replace ocean waves, but as a supportive tool to enhance your ocean experience. When Urban first opened in Melbourne, the thought was it was going to serve mainly the core surf community, salty dogs who have surfed for 20 years plus, and those people came, for sure, but so did a different demographic. The new age surfer. Newbies who'd always wanted to surf but didn't get to until COVID. Surfers who stood with one leg in core and one leg in the corporate world. Ocean-starved Melbourneites just looking to bang out some waves in their lunch break. And, at least this is what I've seen on my coaching retreats there, it's been this new demographic that has made up the bulk of the Melbourne customer base. I think the main reason this demographic has gravitated towards pools so much is because it gives them a more accessible roadmap to improve their surfing, a quick and easy, guaranteed option to get some waves in without wasting too much time or without the hassle of a crowd. After living in Sydney for 4 years, I think there's plenty of people here who match that description. Alright, let's have a look at the first waves. First up, we're going to have a crack at the cruiser setting and the progressive turn setting. Let's see how we go. The cruiser setting is a tiny, perfect wave. Even on my 6'5" mid-length, I was struggling a little bit to get moving and to lay down a proper turn, which might be expected because this wave is built for that beginner who's on a foamy and really in the early stages of learning to cut across a wave. They'll need a big board though, and I think this is in slight contrast to the cruiser setting in Melbourne, where I found at least you can still get moving on a mid-length or a big fish and really give it a good couple of cracks. I wouldn't be surprised if the guys end up increasing the power or size of this wave by about 10 or 15%, as I think the category of surfer it suits at the moment is only a fraction of the actual beginner market who need a little bit more push to make their surfing easy. That being said, it's still a really perfect and fun little wave.
And then the next one comes, same spot, line up with the wall. Here I go. I missed it. We're gonna go again.
Next up on the menu is progressive turns. This wave has become a favourite of many down in Melbourne because arguably it has the best shape of any wave on the menu, even at the smaller size. I found this setting perfectly matched to my MIDI and really enjoyed the new power under my feet compared to the cruiser setting. The first section in particular has a really nice pace for a good committed cutback all the way to the pocket without losing energy for the rest of the wave.
I think different is the key word here. There's a sharpness here that's not in Melbourne, at least on these smaller waves.
As the waves are ramping up in size, you really start to notice the difference between Sydney and Melbourne. Even with the exact same technology, the waves are incredibly different to what I'm used to down south and offer what I would say is something more similar to waves on the east coast. More cupped out and an even tighter pocket compared with the more even and slightly slopier walls in Tullamarine and the Surf Coast. Inadvertently, I think the team has created a geo-specific wave menu appropriate to each location. Alright, the intermediate setting now. Let's go. The intermediate wave is a fantastic, widely accessible setting under the urban menu. After one wave on my mid-length, I figured it was time to bring the shortboard out to try and up the level a bit. However, I found the shortboard I was riding, not my regular one, just fought me for speed on every wave. Now for reference, I normally ride my FT quad in the pool down in Melbourne, and even on the intermediate setting, find it goes pretty well if the wind is cooperating. I didn't have that board with me on this trip and instead took out my JS Monster 10, which actually goes really well in the ocean. However, the extra rocker felt really out of place and slowed me down a ton on every bottom turn. I feel like on these waves, you really need drive, effortless forward momentum to push against the somewhat unnatural suck back at the front of the wave in the pool. I didn't have that on this particular board and it really impacted my experience. And I think it brings into focus the need to be really specific with your board choice for the pool. My recommendation would be to choose the fastest board you have access to, likely a small wave high performance board or a good performance mid-length.
After you wave, as long as you're not getting in front of other people, you've got to duck over to the rip, which is against this machine, and then paddle back out the back using the water's assistance in time for the next set. And in a commercial setting, there'll be lots of people out here and you all just line up against the wall and take your turn. Today I don't have to line up. These guys are letting me go. You go.
The intermediate setting feels like a good wave, and there's definitely a lot of opportunity to go vertical here in Sydney. I'd say this is the point at which you can comfortably change boards from a longer board, like a performance mid or a foamy, to a shorter, more high performance craft. I found the takeoff is actually easier than Melbourne, yet the wall demands a steeper and more critical line as you surf it. I wonder how these critical lips will fare in the offshore here in Sydney. Based on my past experience, surfing when it's offshore in the pool makes all the settings, with the exception of the tubes, extremely hard to surf. Onshore is a much better scenario for easy surfing in the tub. Here in Sydney, the pool is oriented to the southeast, making southeasters an offshore breeze and northeasters an onshore breeze. Though with the extra facilities around the pool, I dare say that wind will be less impactful here in Sydney than at Tullamarine. In terms of water temperature, being a shallow pool of water, expect the temperature swings to be more significant than the ocean. I was here in April and the water was around 21 degrees Celsius. If Melbourne is anything to go by, I'd guess the water will generally sit about 3 to 4 degrees cooler than the ocean in winter and slightly warmer or on par with the ocean in summer. In terms of facilities, expect more food and beverage options, a good hiring facility, and the area I'm most excited about.
I'm just going upstairs into, I guess, what is essentially the back end of the magic of the wave pool, and it looks schmick as. But let me show you something else. I mean, personally, I think this is where the magic happens, if you will. Big TV for video analysis, big space for students to hang out, overlook the waves, always be ready to go. I reckon you could even surf skate in here, though I don't know if that's going to be an intentional use of the space.
All right, back in the water, we're on to advanced turns. I was actually lucky enough to be involved in the testing phases of advanced turns down in Melbourne, and I can say really confidently that it's my favourite setting in the pool, particularly the first half of the session before they tweak the settings slightly. The challenge down in Melbourne for my students with this one is the takeoff. It's really steep on all the advanced settings, more so than an advanced ocean wave, which limits the application of this setting strictly to advanced surfers. Interestingly, here in Sydney, the takeoff on all the settings seems much easier. In advanced turns, you can hardly tell the difference between it and intermediate until you do your first bottom turn. And this is a bit of a game changer because it's going to mean that even lower intermediate surfers who might struggle with a steep drop can still choose the advanced turn setting to challenge their vertical game. The wave itself maintains its steepness throughout the ride and demands a critical approach. To be honest, I wasn't given enough time in the pool to really have a go at this and compare it comprehensively to the Melbourne one, but I'm confident I'm really going to like it if I have the right board. This setting is also going to be used during the first half of your advanced sessions before the tubes get served up for the second half. And that's where we are now. To be honest, the tube setting is exactly as expected and matches Melbourne almost perfectly. An easy takeoff, stall in the pocket, and a glowing blue funnel down the line. There's really not much I would change about this setting, and I think it remains a good opportunity for people to practice tube riding, though, as I've said before, it doesn't really carry over into the ocean very well because the takeoff is so easy. It's pretty rare in the ocean to have such a nice and gentle roll in before setting up for the tube. Maybe in this respect there is an opportunity for Urban to come up with a wave that barrels right off the takeoff, but I can imagine that this would be a bit of a liability for anyone who's not well versed in tubes, perhaps too niche.
I asked the guys if they would let me have a go at a couple of airs, but the air section, sadly, is not available to the public.
Obviously, you would have noticed that a lot of Wavegarden and Urban's promotional material has been centred around the air section, and that's simply because it's an incredibly special feature the pool has to offer. The problem is, they don't offer it. Well, not right now anyway. If you're like me, you'll find this bitterly disappointing because the opportunity to practice aerials over and over again is so rare in surfing. Not only that, once you reach an advanced level of surfing, the natural progression focus is in rotational maneuvers, aerials, and barrels. Having only one of those three available is a little frustrating as a consumer and something I'm super upset I didn't get to try. The reason it's not available is simply because wave frequency during the air setting needs to be so low in order for it to be effective. This was reflected during my time at Waco in Texas, for example, where instead of 4 waves a minute like on the turn setting, the air setting drops down to 1 wave per minute, which actually makes a heck of a difference when you have 12 people in the water. Let me explain all that a little bit further. In order for there to be an air section, you need to create a beginning of the wave here and then push a slightly larger section across the pool from the train in this direction toward the breaking wave. This creates a whitewater peak that one can theoretically do an air on. However, this sideways swell line also bounces off the wall here and then reverbs back towards the train this way, creating an awkward reverse wedge for any waves that come in behind the first one. As the set goes on, this would theoretically become more and more jumbled and washy, creating a completely unusable wave set, hence the need to reduce frequency to such a low number. Suffice to say, this all makes the cost per wave ridiculously expensive and thus the economic viability of the setting an uphill battle. Unless you can somehow create an artificial reef type object within the pool that creates a section for the wave to break on right down the end, like in South Korea. Now, I don't actually have any experience or insights with the Korean pool other than the fact that their air section looks more natural and less intrusive on the pool surface than the Sydney air section. Apparently, this proof of concept wasn't viable though, because according to my sources, it's no longer in use and not really talked about within the industry anymore. And that's all I know. As far as I, an uneducated wave pool consumer, can see, it seems like the best option. The only issue I could foresee with this is if there was a set of, say, 12 waves, what happens when someone falls off whilst trying an air in front of you? Would they have time to get out of the way of the following surfer? The door remains wide open for a technology or location to offer up a publicly available air section in Australia. The guys in Sydney tell me they will have it available, most likely only within privately hired sessions and of course for a premium price. Overall, I'm extremely excited that there's a pool in Sydney. The wave quality is fantastic. Not better or worse than Melbourne, but different for sure. It's actually going to be a challenge for people who have surfed in Melbourne before and want to come up and just rip it. Like, I thought I was a shoo-in. I was like, sweet, I'm going to be shredding. And I just got humbled, totally humbled. I'm really looking forward to what the guys can pull off here with the public. And I think people who come in with a blank slate and, you know, take the time to learn and know this wave are going to thrive. They're going to love it. So I'm super pumped, super excited. If you enjoyed this video, let me know in the comments down below. What are your thoughts about the new pool? If you're keen to progress your surfing this year, I'm running a bunch of wave pool retreats here in Sydney and would love to have you along. You can check those out via the link in the description, or if you're overseas and can't fly in, check out thesurfersroadmap.com where you can start your progression online. It's been a pleasure. I look forward to meeting you. I'll catch you later.